The fluorescent lights in Seattle Children's Hospital flickered at 4:47 p.m. on a Friday in October. Marcus Hayes sat in the waiting room, his daughter Sophie, asleep against his shoulder, her breathing shallow and uneven. The oversized unicorn headphones slipped down her thin face. Once thick brown curls now reduced to wispy strands from months of treatment. Marcus clutched his phone in one hand, a crumpled architectural blueprint in the other. Another commission he'd have to decline, the third this month. Between hospital visits and insurance calls and sleepless nights watching Sophie's chest rise and fall, there wasn't time for building other people's dreams. His eyes drifted to the wall clock. The second hand clicked forward with mechanical precision. Each tick a reminder. Sophie's kidney function 23%. The number haunted him. A countdown he couldn't stop. He looked down at his phone. One unread message from Amy, his Tinder date for tonight. He should cancel. Again. But Sophie's doctor had insisted he needed to maintain some semblance of a life. "You can't pour from an empty cup, Mr. Hayes." Marcus typed quickly, thumbs moving before his brain could overthink. "Tonight's perfect. Can't stop replaying your laugh. Fair warning, I'm rusty at this. Been a while since I've wanted to kiss someone at a crosswalk." He hit send. The phone made that soft whoosh sound. Message delivered. Marcus glanced at the screen. His stomach dropped. The recipient name glowed in blue letters, Dr. E. Hartwell. Not Amy Chen, Dr. Elena Hartwell, CEO of Hartwell Biotech. The woman who held his daughter's life in her hands. The pharmaceutical executive whose company had rejected Sophie's application for their experimental lupus trial 3 times. The gatekeeper to the only treatment that showed real promise for Harrington syndrome. He'd just sent her a flirty text about kissing at crosswalks. No, 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 no. Marcus's hand shook. He pulled up her contact. His finger hovered over the call button. What would he even say? His mind raced through the email exchanges they'd had. 17 messages over 4 months. Each one clinical, formal, professional. "Mr. Hayes, we regret to inform you. Mr. Hayes, your daughter does not meet the current criteria. Mr. Hayes, we appreciate your persistence, but our decision stands. And now can't stop thinking about kissing you." Marcus opened Google with trembling fingers. Searched Dr. Elena Hartwell. The results loaded. Forbes, the Ice Empress of Biotech. Business Insider, Hartwell's ruthless trial protocols revolutionize industry. A LinkedIn profile photo. Sharp cheekbones. Blonde hair pulled back severe. Blue eyes that looked like they could freeze mercury. A black power suit that probably cost more than his mortgage. No smile, but there near her right eyebrow a small scar, the only imperfection visible. Something human in all that polish. Marcus checked the time. 4:52 p.m. He tried calling the Hartwell Biotech main line. Voicemail. "Our offices are closed. Please call back during business hours." 4:53 p.m. He paced the waiting room. A nurse glanced at him with concern. Sophie stirred but didn't wake. Her small hand clutched something. Marcus looked closer. A moonstone, the last gift from her mother before the car accident 4 years ago. Sophie carried it everywhere now. 4:54 p.m. Maybe Hartwell wouldn't see the message until Monday. Maybe she'd ignore it. Maybe he could send a follow-up. "Sorry, wrong number. Please disregard." Would that make it better or worse? 4:55 p.m. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Mr. Hayes, I'll be there in 4 minutes." Marcus's vision blurred. She was coming here to the hospital. Why? He looked down at Sophie, still sleeping, still sick, still running out of time. The blueprint crumpled further in his fist. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The clock ticked forward. 4:56 p.m., 4:57 p.m., 4:58 p.m. The doorbell at his house was ringing. Wait, the doorbell. Marcus jolted awake. He was home. Sophie was in bed upstairs. The hospital visit had been this morning. He'd fallen asleep on the couch, the stress of the day pulling him under. But the doorbell was real. He stumbled to the door, still disoriented, checked his watch. 4:59 p.m. Marcus opened the door. Dr. Elena Hartwell stood on his porch. She looked nothing like her magazine covers. Her normally perfect blonde hair was wind-blown from the October drizzle. A strand stuck to her cheek. Her Armani suit was immaculate except for one button undone at the collar. Her blue eyes up close weren't cold. They were searching, curious, almost nervous. Rain dripped from the edge of her coat. The Tesla in his driveway hummed quietly, headlights still on, cutting through the gray Seattle afternoon. "Mr. Hayes?" Her voice was softer than he'd imagined, almost uncertain. "Your text was unexpected." Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The most powerful woman in pharmaceutical research was standing in his doorway because he'd sent her a message meant for a stranger. "Dr. Hartwell, I didn't mean—" She held up one hand, perfectly manicured nails. No wedding ring, just a simple watch that probably cost more than his car. "I know." A pause. "I read your file, all 17 emails you sent us." Another pause. The rain picked up. She didn't move. "May I come in?" What do you think happens when the Ice Empress steps inside? Drop your predictions in the comments below. And if you're hooked on Marcus and Sophie's story, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what comes next. Like if you've ever sent a text to the wrong person and had your heart stop. Marcus stepped aside. Elena walked past him and he caught the scent of her perfume. Vetiver and bergamot. Not sweet, sharp, almost masculine. The kind of scent that meant business. She stood in his living room taking it in, toys scattered across the hardwood floor, a half-assembled Lego castle by the couch, dishes from breakfast still in the sink. Medical bills stacked on the counter, the top one stamped in red, past due. Marcus wanted to apologize for the mess, but the words stuck in his throat. "You're home," Elena said quietly. She wasn't judging. She was reading it, like an archaeologist examining artifacts. Her eyes moved from the family photos on the mantel to the calendar on the wall marked with hospital appointments in blue ink. September had 17. October already had 12. "It's just me and Sophie," Marcus managed. "Things get away from me sometimes." "You're doing this alone." It wasn't a question. Her mother died 4 years ago, car accident. The words still felt like glass in his mouth. Sophie was 4. Elena's gaze softened almost imperceptibly. She set her designer handbag on the chair. The contrast was absurd. A $5,000 bag next to Sophie's stuffed elephant missing one eye. "Daddy," Sophie appeared in the hallway. She wore pajamas 3 sizes too big, a hand-me-down from Marcus's sister. Her thin arms poked out like twigs. The knit cap covered her head, but a few wisps of hair escaped at the edges, once brown and thick, now barely there. Marcus's heart clenched. She was supposed to be resting. But then something unexpected happened. Elena knelt down, right there on the floor in her expensive suit. She lowered herself to Sophie's eye level. "Hello there." Her voice transformed completely. Warm, gentle. Nothing like the clinical tone from their email exchanges. "I'm Elena. I work at the company that makes medicine." Sophie studied her with the directness only children possess. "Are you the dragon lady from Dad's emails?" Marcus choked on air. "Soph, I never—" But Elena laughed. A real laugh. It changed her entire face. "I've been called worse," she said to Sophie. "You can call me Elena." "Do you fix kidneys?" The question hung in the air. Marcus watched Elena's composure flicker. Just for a second, something crossed her face. Pain, maybe, or memory. "I'm trying to," Elena said softly. Sophie held up her hand. The moonstone caught the light from the window. "My mama gave me this before she went to heaven. It's supposed to bring good luck." Elena stared at the stone. Her breath caught. Marcus saw it. The way her shoulders tensed. The way her fingers curled slightly. "My sister had one like that," Elena whispered. "Did it bring her good luck?" A pause, too long. Marcus took a step forward, about to redirect the conversation. But Elena spoke first. She kept it with her until the end. Her voice was barely audible. It gave her comfort. That's a kind of luck. Sophie nodded, satisfied with this answer in a way adults never were. "Okay, I'm gonna go draw now. Nice to meet you, Elena." She padded back down the hallway. The adults listened to her bedroom door close. Elena stood slowly, smoothed her skirt. When she looked at Marcus, her walls were back up, but not quite as high. "Coffee?" Marcus offered. "Please." In the kitchen, Marcus's hand shook as he filled the pot. He was acutely aware of Elena behind him, watching, assessing. He grabbed 2 mugs from the cabinet. One said "World's Okayest Dad." The other had a chip in the rim. "I'm sorry about the text," he said, not turning around. "It was meant for someone else. A date I was supposed to have tonight." "I gathered." The coffee maker gurgled. Marcus finally turned to face her. She'd taken a seat at his small kitchen table, her laptop open in front of her. "You drove here because of a misdirected flirty message?" "No." Elena's fingers moved across the keyboard. "I drove here because after I received your message during a board meeting, I excused myself to reread your file. And what I found disturbed me greatly." She turned the screen toward him. Marcus leaned closer. His application history. 17 submissions, 3 formal denials. But there was more. Email threads he'd never seen. Internal communications. "Someone buried your case," Elena said. Her voice had gone cold, professional. "Deliberately." Marcus's stomach turned. "What? Why would anyone do that?" Elena's jaw tightened. "My ex-husband sits on the board. He oversees clinical trial admissions." The coffee pot beeped. Neither of them moved. "Your ex-husband blocked my daughter's treatment." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. Hot. Acidic. "Why? Because he's bitter." Elena closed the laptop with a decisive click. "Our divorce was 3 years ago. Contentious. He knows how personal the Harrington research is to me, because of my sister." "Your sister had lupus, systemic. She was 12 when she died. I was 17. Elena's voice was steady, but her hands betrayed her. They gripped the edge of the table. "I watched her suffer for 2 years, watched her body attack itself, watched doctors throw medication after medication at her with no real understanding of the disease mechanism." Marcus poured the coffee, set a mug in front of her, sat down. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." Elena wrapped her hands around the mug but didn't drink. "Emma's death is why I built Hartwell Biotech, to develop treatments for rare autoimmune diseases that pharmaceutical giants ignore because they're not profitable enough." She looked toward the hallway where Sophie had disappeared. "Children like your daughter." Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. This woman, this supposed ice empress, had lost someone too. Had built an empire on grief and determination, just like he'd rebuilt his life around Sophie after Sarah died. "So, what happens now?" he asked quietly. Elena met his eyes. "Sophie starts treatment Monday, 8 a.m. I'll have all the paperwork delivered tomorrow." Marcus nearly dropped his mug. Just like that, just like that. But we've been trying for months. 4 appeals, 3 denials. Tomorrow we were supposed to— I know. I saw the appointment scheduled. Elena's expression hardened, which you won't need, because I'm adding Sophie to the trial myself, effective immediately. Can you do that? I'm the CEO. A ghost of a smile. And after tomorrow's emergency board meeting, my ex-husband won't be in a position to block anyone ever again. The words hung between them. Marcus didn't know what to say. His daughter, who'd been declining for months. His daughter whose kidney function dropped every week. His daughter who he was watching fade in slow motion, finally had a chance. Why? The word came out broken. Elena was quiet for a moment. She looked around the kitchen, at the medical bills, at the calendar, at the photo on the refrigerator of Marcus and Sophie at the beach last summer, both of them smiling, even though Sophie had been exhausted after 10 minutes in the sand. "Because you sent me a text about kissing at crosswalks," she said softly, "and it reminded me that I'm not just a CEO. I'm a person, and people don't let children die because of corporate politics and personal vendettas." She stood, gathered her bag. "Monday, 8 a.m., I'll send a car." "You don't have to. I want to." She paused at the doorway between the kitchen and living room, turned back. "That text Marcus, about wondering what it would be like to kiss me." His face burned. "I'm so sorry. It was completely inappropriate." It was the first genuine human communication I've received in months. Something shifted in her expression. Vulnerability, maybe. Or loneliness. "Everyone is too intimidated to speak to me like a person. Your mistake was refreshing." She walked to the front door. Marcus followed, still processing. "Though, perhaps," she added, one hand on the doorknob, "save the kissing comments for after we've actually met properly." Then she was gone, down the porch steps, into the Tesla. The headlights cut through the October dusk as she pulled away. Marcus stood in the doorway, rain misting his face. Had his catastrophic text message error actually saved his daughter's life? Saturday passed in a blur. Marcus tried to explain to Sophie what happened, but she just shrugged with the easy acceptance of children. "I liked her," Sophie said simply. "She didn't talk to me like I'm a baby." Sunday, a courier arrived. A thick envelope of paperwork. Treatment protocols, consent forms, and a handwritten note on expensive stationery. "Treatment starts Monday. Don't worry about transportation. I'll handle it. My personal cell is included if you have questions. V." Marcus stared at the note. The handwriting was precise, controlled, but she'd signed with just an initial. Something about that felt intimate. Sunday night, he couldn't sleep. He kept checking his phone, rereading the note, looking at Sophie asleep in her bed chest, rising and falling with that shallow rhythm he knew too well. At 7:58 Monday morning, a black Tesla pulled up outside their house. Marcus expected a driver. Elena stepped out herself. She wore dark jeans and a simple blue cashmere sweater. Her hair was down loose around her shoulders. No power suit, no severe bun. She looked softer, younger. Marcus opened the door before she could knock. "Good morning," she said. Her smile was tentative, uncertain in a way that didn't match her reputation. "I thought I'd accompany you both today, if that's all right. First days can be intimidating." Sophie appeared behind Marcus, already dressed. She'd insisted on wearing her favorite purple dress, the one that was getting too short in the sleeves. "You came—" Sophie's face lit up. "Daddy said you might." Elena knelt down again. Same movement as Friday, unconcerned about her expensive clothes on the wet porch. "I wouldn't miss it." She produced a small gift bag. "And I brought you something." Sophie opened it carefully. Inside was a journal. The cover showed a night sky, constellations picked out in silver. It's for recording your journey, Elena explained. When my sister was sick, she kept a journal of all her good days. It helped her remember that even during treatment, there were still beautiful moments. Sophie clutched the journal to her chest. Thank you. I'm going to write about today, because it's already a good day. In the car, Sophie sat in back wrapped in a cashmere blanket Elena had brought. The interior smelled like leather and books. NPR played softly on the radio. Marcus sat in the passenger seat, hyper-aware of Elena beside him. She drove with the same precision she seemed to do everything. Efficient. Controlled. But her eyes kept flicking to the rearview mirror, checking on Sophie. The treatment protocol, Elena began, her voice shifting into doctor mode, involves targeted immunosuppression. We're not trying to shut down Sophie's immune system entirely, we're recalibrating it. She explained the science in terms Sophie could understand without being condescending. Marcus watched his daughter lean forward, asking questions. Real questions. Elena answered each one with patience. Will it hurt? Sophie asked. Elena didn't lie. A little. The IV placement can be uncomfortable, and you might feel tired afterward, but the medical team is excellent, and I'll be there. You're staying, if you want me to. Yes, please. The Hartwell Biotech Medical Wing was all glass and steel. Modern. Cold. But Elena led them to a different section. The pediatric ward had been designed with warmth in mind. Soft lighting. Colorful artwork on the walls. Treatment rooms with windows overlooking a garden. I insisted on this design, Elena said quietly to Marcus as they walked. Children shouldn't feel like they're in a prison. Sophie's treatment room had a large window. Elena had added something since Friday. String lights along the ceiling. Not harsh fluorescence. Gentle warm light. And the blankets were soft, patterned with stars. A nurse came in, young, kind-faced. Hi, Sophie. I'm Jenny. I'm going to be taking care of you today. The IV placement took 3 tries. Sophie cried. Marcus held one hand. Elena, without being asked, held the other. Look at me, Sophie, Elena said softly. Did you know that Orion the Hunter has a constellation story? He was the most handsome hunter in the world. She talked through the entire procedure. Her voice steady, calm. By the 3rd try, Sophie was focused on the story, not the needle. When it was done, Jenny started the infusion. 4 hours. The bag hung above Sophie's bed, clear liquid dripping into the tube. I'll leave you to rest, Elena said, standing. You don't have to go, Sophie said quickly. You said you'd stay. Elena looked at Marcus. He nodded. She settled into the chair by the window, pulled out her laptop. I have some work I can do remotely. I'll be right here. Marcus watched her over the next 4 hours, watched the transformation. She took calls, her voice sharp and commanding. No, I want the reformulation by Wednesday. I don't care if it requires overtime. Then she'd hang up and look at Sophie with complete gentleness. Around hour 2, her jacket came off, draped over the chair back. Hour 3, her hair started to escape the loose ponytail she'd put it in. By hour 4, her hair was completely down, falling over her shoulders as she typed. She'd kicked off her shoes, sat cross-legged in the chair. Marcus realized something. She was beautiful like this. Not the polished, intimidating CEO from magazine covers, but the woman with messy hair and no shoes working on a laptop while keeping watch over a sick child. Sophie fell asleep in hour 3. The medication made her drowsy. Jenny had said this was normal. Elena closed her laptop, stood, tucked the blanket around Sophie with careful hands. Her fingers lingered on Sophie's thin hair. Marcus saw her hand shake. Coffee, he whispered. They walked to the small break room down the hall. Elena poured 2 cups from the pot. Hospital coffee. Terrible. But she drank it anyway. You didn't have to stay, Marcus said. Elena looked at him. Really looked at him. Her blue eyes were tired. Where else would I be, running a billion-dollar company? The company runs itself for a few hours. She leaned against the counter. When Emma was sick, no one stayed. My parents had to work. I was in school. She was alone during treatments. I swore if I ever had the power, no kid would go through that alone. Sophie's not alone. I'm here. I know. Elena's voice softened. Neither are you. Something passed between them, unspoken. A shared understanding of loss and responsibility and the weight of loving someone fragile. Marcus took a step closer. Thank you. For everything. For believing me. For helping Sophie. For staying. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. Another step. They were close now. He could see the flecks of gray in her blue eyes, the faint lines at the corners from years of stress. That text I sent, the one meant for someone else. Yes, I'm glad it went to you instead. Elena's breath caught. Marcus. His phone buzzed. Sophie's nurse. She was waking up. The moment broke. They walked back to the room. Sophie was groggy but smiling. Did I sleep the whole time? Most of it, Elena said, sitting back in her chair. You did great. The treatment finished at 1 p.m. Jenny removed the IV. Sophie was tired but stable. We'll do this 3 times a week for the first month, Elena explained as they walked to the car. Then we'll reassess based on her response. She drove them home, helped Marcus get Sophie inside and settled on the couch. Then she stood in the doorway, clearly reluctant to leave. I'll see you Wednesday, she said. You don't have to drive us every time. I want to. She met his eyes. If that's okay. More than okay. She left. Marcus stood at the window watching the Tesla pull away. Sophie looked up from the couch. I like her daddy. Yeah, sweetheart, me too. Week 2 started the same. Elena picked them up, drove them, stayed through treatment. Wednesday, Friday, then Monday again. But on the second Wednesday, something changed. They arrived at the treatment center to find a man waiting, late 50s, silver hair perfectly styled, expensive suit, a watch that probably cost more than Marcus's car. Mr. Hayes. The man's smile was practiced, fake. Marcus, is it? Dr. Hartwell, Marcus said carefully. He recognized him from photos. Richard Hartwell, Elena's ex-husband. Call me Richard, the other Gerard Hartwell. He gestured toward the building. I reviewed Sophie's file this morning. Fascinating case. Marcus felt his guard rise. You're the one who blocked her application. Richard didn't deny it. Protocols exist for a reason. Elena tends to be emotional about pediatric cases, clouds her judgment. My daughter isn't a protocol. Of course not. She's a little girl who's very sick. Richard's tone was patronizing, syrupy. Which is exactly why we need to be careful. Experimental treatments carry risks. Elena sometimes forgets that in her zeal to play savior. Marcus's hands clenched. She's helping Sophie when no one else would. For now, Richard's smile didn't reach his eyes. But Elena has a pattern, Mr. Hayes. She fixes broken things, throws herself into projects with intensity and passion, until she gets bored, then she moves on. Sophie isn't a project. I hope you're right. Richard glanced at his watch. I just wanted to introduce myself. Make sure you understand that Elena isn't the only person overseeing this trial. I'll be monitoring Sophie's progress as well. Closely." He walked away. Marcus stood frozen in the parking lot. Elena appeared from the building, saw his face. "What happened?" "Your ex-husband was here." Her expression went cold, hard. "What did he say?" Marcus told her, watched her face tighten with each sentence. By the end, her jaw was clenched. "That son of a—" She stopped herself, took a breath. When she spoke again, her voice was controlled, deadly calm. "Come on, Sophie's waiting." But Marcus saw it, the flash of fury in her eyes, the way her hands shook slightly as she led him inside. Something had shifted, and Marcus had the sinking feeling that this was just the beginning. If you've ever had someone try to intimidate you when you were already vulnerable, drop a comment, and stay subscribed because this story is about to get a whole lot more complicated. Like if you're Team Marcus and Elena. That afternoon, after Sophie's treatment ended, Elena found Marcus on the hospital rooftop garden. It was a space few people knew about, reserved for staff, for doctors who needed a moment to breathe between life and death decisions. The October rain had stopped. Seattle sprawled below them, the Space Needle visible through breaks in the clouds. The air smelled of wet earth and pine. Potted trees lined the perimeter, their needles heavy with moisture. Marcus stood at the railing, hands gripped tight on the metal bar. "He got to you," Elena said quietly. Marcus didn't turn. "He said you fix broken things until you get bored." A silence, then footsteps. Elena came to stand beside him, close but not touching. Richard specializes in finding the exact words that will hurt most. "Is he right? About what? Are we a project to you?" Marcus finally looked at her. "Sophie and me. Something to make you feel better about losing your sister." Elena flinched like he'd struck her. "No." "Then what are we?" She was quiet for a long moment. Her hands gripped the railing too, knuckles white against the dark metal. "You're terrifying," she said finally. Marcus blinked. "What? You and Sophie? You're absolutely terrifying." Her voice cracked slightly. "I built a company from nothing. I control every variable. I schedule every minute of every day. I know exactly what's happening in 17 different drug trials at any given moment." She turned to face him. Her blue eyes were bright, too bright. "Then you sent that text, and Sophie smiled at me. And for the first time in 20 years, I wanted something I couldn't plan or control or schedule in my calendar." The wind picked up. It caught her hair, blew it across her face. She didn't brush it away. "Richard's right about one thing," she continued. "I do fix things. It's all I've done since Emma died. Fix diseases, fix protocols, fix broken systems. Because if I can fix enough things, maybe her death meant something." "Elena." "But you're not broken, Marcus. Neither is Sophie. You're just living, fighting, loving each other through something impossible." Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. "And watching you do that makes me realize how much I've been hiding, how much I've used work as an excuse not to feel anything real." Marcus reached out, took her hand. Her fingers were cold. "What do you want?" he asked softly. Elena looked at their joined hands. "To build something that won't collapse." "I'm an architect," Marcus said. "Building things that don't collapse is literally my job." She laughed. It came out wet, almost a sob. "Then teach me." The rain started again. Light, misting. Marcus pulled her closer. She didn't resist. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Once we start this, I can't keep it professional. I can't pretend you're just Sophie's doctor." "I stopped being professional the moment I drove to your house." Elena looked up at him. "I just didn't want to admit it." He kissed her. Gentle, tentative. Her lips were soft and she tasted like hospital coffee and something sweet. Her hand came up to his chest, not pushing away, just resting there, feeling his heartbeat. When they pulled apart, she was crying, actually crying, tears mixing with rain on her face. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "I don't know how to be with someone, how to let someone in." "Neither do I," Marcus admitted. "Sarah was it for me. I thought I'd never feel this way about anyone else." "Are you scared? Terrified?" "Good." Elena smiled through her tears. "Then we're even." They stood there as the rain fell, Seattle gray and misty around them, and for the first time since Sarah died, Marcus felt like maybe he could breathe again. Week 3. Elena took them to Pike Place Market on a Saturday. Marcus almost didn't recognize her at first. She wore jeans, actual jeans, faded and soft-looking, a cream sweater, her hair in a simple ponytail, sunglasses hiding her eyes. She looked younger, lighter. Sophie held both their hands as they walked through the crowds. The market was loud, chaotic, vendors calling out prices, the smell of fresh fish and flowers and coffee mixing in the salt air. "Have you ever been here?" Marcus asked. "Once, years ago, for a corporate event." Elena made a face. "Catered dinner on a closed-off section, very sanitized." "That doesn't count." They bought flowers. Bright orange dahlias. Sophie picked them out. Then cheese from a vendor who gave them samples on tiny crackers. Wine from another. Elena's phone rang constantly. She ignored it. "Don't you need to get that?" Marcus asked after the 5th call. "No." She silenced it completely. "I'm off the clock." Sophie tugged her hand. "Can we see the fish?" At Pike Place Fish Market, they watched the workers throw salmon back and forth. Sophie squealed with delight. Elena laughed, really laughed. Head back, completely unself-conscious. Marcus pulled out his phone. "Can I?" She nodded. He took a photo. Elena and Sophie both watching the fish fly through the air. Both smiling, natural, real. Later, Sophie FaceTimed Marcus's parents while Elena and Marcus sat on a bench overlooking the water. "Your daughter is threatening to tell Grandma about the pretty doctor," Elena said. "Should I be worried?" "Only if you haven't told them about me." Marcus was quiet. "I didn't know what to tell them." "Hey, Mom, I'm dating Sophie's doctor, who I accidentally sent a flirty text to." Elena's mouth twitched. "When you put it that way, it does sound improbable." "Is that what we're doing? Dating?" She turned to look at him. "What would you call it?" "I don't know. I haven't dated since Sarah. I don't know the rules anymore." "Then let's not have rules." Elena took his hand, laced their fingers together. "Let's just be." Sophie came running back. "Grandma wants to meet Elena." Marcus groaned. Elena just smiled. Week 4 brought news. Good news. Sophie's kidney function had improved. From 23% to 31%. Not huge, but movement in the right direction. Jenny, the nurse, showed them the lab results. "This is exactly what we want to see. Steady improvement." Sophie was dancing. Actually dancing. Just small movements. Spinning in a circle. But it was more energy than she'd had in months. Elena watched from the doorway. Marcus saw her wipe her eyes. Later in the hallway, he found her alone. "You okay?" "It's working." Her voice was thick. "The treatment is actually working." "Thanks to you. Thanks to Sophie. She's a fighter." Marcus pulled her into a hug. She held on tight, her face buried in his shoulder. "When Emma died," she said quietly, "I thought I'd never forgive myself for not being able to save her, for not being old enough or smart enough or fast enough." "You were 17. "I know, but that didn't matter. I still felt responsible. She pulled back, looked at him. Watching Sophie improve feels like a second chance. You're not replacing Emma. I know that too. Elena smiled, sad but genuine. But I'm allowing myself to hope again. That's something. Week 5. Marcus invited Elena to dinner at his house, just the three of them. He cooked. Spaghetti, nothing fancy, but Sophie loved it. After dinner, they went up to the rooftop deck Marcus had built. He'd set up a telescope there. Old, second-hand, but functional. I didn't know you were into astronomy, Elena said. Sophie's idea. After her mom died, she said she wanted to look at the stars because maybe Sarah was up there looking down. Elena's expression softened. She knelt beside Sophie. Want me to show you some constellations? Yes, she pointed out Orion, Cassiopeia, Ursa Major. Her knowledge was encyclopedic. Sophie hung on every word. How do you know all this? Sophie asked. My sister and I used to stargaze. Elena adjusted the telescope. Emma loved astronomy. She wanted to be an astronaut. Really, even when she got sick, she'd make me bring star charts to the hospital. Sophie was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry she died. Me too, sweetie. Elena's voice was soft. But talking about her with you makes me remember the good parts, not just the sad ending. Around 9, Sophie fell asleep on the blanket between them. Marcus covered her with his jacket. Elena and Marcus sat in silence. The city lights spread below, stars above. She's getting attached, Marcus said quietly. So am I. If this doesn't work out, don't. Elena looked at him. Don't think about that right now. Just be here with me. Are you scared? Terrified? She leaned her head on his shoulder. But I'm staying anyway. Week 6 was the first sleepover, not planned, just happened. Treatment ran late. Sophie fell asleep in the car. Marcus carried her inside and Elena helped get her settled. I should go, Elena said. But she didn't move toward the door, or you could stay. Marcus's heart hammered. For coffee, or wine, or just to talk. She stayed. They talked until 2 in the morning, on his couch, about everything. Her company, his architecture work, their childhoods, their losses, their fears. Somewhere around midnight, talking turned to kissing. Slow. Careful. Like they were both afraid of breaking something precious. I should sleep in the guest room, Elena whispered. You should. Neither of them moved. Eventually, Marcus stood, held out his hand. She took it. The guest room had a double bed. They lay on top of the covers, fully clothed, Elena's head on his chest, his arm around her shoulders. This is nice, she said. Yeah. I haven't shared a bed with anyone in 3 years. Since the divorce. Since before the divorce. Richard and I stopped being intimate long before we signed papers. Marcus pressed a kiss to her hair. I'm glad you're here. Me too. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other. Morning came with sunlight through the curtains, and Sophie's voice. Daddy! Marcus jolted awake. Sophie stood in the doorway, staring. But Sophie just smiled. A huge, knowing smile. Is Elena Mom staying for breakfast? The mom part landed like a bomb. Elena froze. Marcus froze. Then Elena sat up slowly. Elena Mom. Sophie shuffled her feet, suddenly shy. Is that okay? I mean, you're not my real mom. But you're kind of like a mom. You take care of me, and you make Daddy smile. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I like that very much. Good. Sophie bounced on her toes. Can we make pancakes? In the kitchen, Marcus attempted pancakes while Elena and Sophie set the table. The scene was so domestic it made his chest ache. This was what he'd been missing. Not just a partner, but someone who fit into the spaces Sarah had left behind. Elena caught him staring. Mouthed, "You okay?" He nodded. Week 7 brought another improvement. Sophie's kidney function hit 44%, almost double from where she'd started. "This is remarkable," Jenny said, reviewing the charts. "Dr. Hartwell, the treatment protocol is exceeding all projections." Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Let's not celebrate too early. We need sustained improvement." But Marcus saw it. The hope in her eyes. The way she held Sophie's hand a little tighter. That evening, Marcus and Elena had their first official date. Dinner at a restaurant overlooking the water. Elena wore a dress. Simple, blue. Marcus wore the one nice suit he owned. "I feel like a teenager," Elena admitted over wine. "Nervous about what to say. Worried about messing this up." "You're not going to mess it up. You don't know that." She traced the rim of her glass. "I'm not good at this, Marcus. Relationships, vulnerability, all of it. Neither am I. But we're figuring it out." She looked at him, really looked at him. "What if I hurt you? What if I hurt Sophie? What if you don't? The statistics." "Forget statistics." Marcus reached across the table, took her hand. "This isn't a clinical trial, it's just us. Being human, making mistakes, trying anyway." Elena's thumb traced circles on his palm. "I care about you, both of you, more than I thought possible. I care about you too. I'm falling for you, Marcus." The words came out quiet, scared. "And I don't know how to stop." "Then don't." He kissed her in the parking lot, under the Seattle drizzle, her back against her car, his hands in her hair. She kissed him back like she was drowning and he was air. "Come home with me," she whispered against his mouth. "Sophie's at my parents'." "I know." They drove to her house, a beautiful, modern place in Queen Anne, all glass and clean lines, nothing like Marcus's cluttered family home. Inside, she poured more wine. They stood in her living room, pristine, cold, like a showroom. "This doesn't look like you," Marcus said. "It doesn't feel like me either." Elena set down her glass. "I've been thinking about selling it, getting something with more character, more warmth. More room for a kid to run around," she smiled. "Maybe." They made love that night, slow, tender. Elena cried after. Happy tears, she insisted. "I forgot what this felt like," she whispered. "Being close to someone. Being vulnerable." "Me too." They fell asleep tangled together. And for a few perfect weeks everything was right. Then week 8 came. Marcus got the call at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Jenny's voice was strained. "Mr. Hayes, you need to come to the hospital. Sophie's had a reaction." His world stopped. What kind of reaction? Her kidney function dropped significantly. Dr. Hartwell is already here. Marcus broke every speed limit getting there. He found Sophie in a hospital bed. Monitors beeping, IV in her arm. Her face pale, so pale. Elena stood at the foot of the bed, white coat on, clipboard in hand. Her face was a mask, professional, detached. "What happened?" Marcus demanded. "Rejection episode." Elena's voice was clinical, cold. Her body's fighting the treatment. But she was improving. "This happens sometimes. The immune system adapts. We'll need to adjust the protocol." Adjust the protocol. Marcus felt panic rising. She was at 44%, now she's 29%. The number hit him like a fist. lower than when they'd started. How is that possible? I told you this was experimental. Elena didn't meet his eyes. There are no guarantees. You said it was working. It was. Her voice remained steady, too steady. Now it's not. We'll adjust. Adjust how try different drugs, hope something sticks. Marcus's voice rose. My daughter isn't a lab experiment. I'm aware of that. Are you, he was shouting now, didn't care. Or is Richard right? Are you just playing savior until it gets hard? Elena's composure cracked. Just for a second. Don't. Don't what? Don't point out that you promised to help her, and now she's worse than when we started. I promised to try, not to play God. Then what good are you? The words hung in the air. Poison. Elena's face went white, then, very carefully, blank. I'll review the data, adjust the treatment plan. We'll try again Friday. Her voice was empty, professional. Excuse me. She walked out, didn't look back. Marcus sank into the chair beside Sophie's bed, put his head in his hands. What had he done? The next 3 days were hell. Sophie stayed in the hospital under observation. Her kidney function remained at 29%. Stable, but not improving. Marcus stayed with her, slept in the chair beside her bed. Elena sent updates through Jenny, new protocol recommendations, adjusted dosages, but she didn't visit. Where's Elena? Sophie asked on the second day. She was weak, could barely keep her eyes open. She's working on your medicine, sweetheart. Did you make her sad? Marcus couldn't answer that. On the third night, Marcus went home to shower and change clothes. His parents were staying with Sophie. The house felt empty. Wrong. He found Elena's hair tie on the bathroom counter, small, black, simple. He'd watched her pull it out of her hair a dozen times, watched her shake out those blonde waves. He picked it up, held it in his palm. On his desk, architectural plans for a house, a new commission he'd finally accepted. He looked at them now, really looked. The layout was wrong. He'd drawn it with too many windows facing east, a rooftop deck for stargazing, an open kitchen perfect for cooking together. He'd designed Elena's house without realizing it. Marcus pulled out his phone, called her. It went to voicemail. Elena, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was scared and I lashed out and I said terrible things I didn't mean. His voice broke. You're not playing savior. You're not experimenting on Sophie. You're trying to save her life, and I know that. I know that. He swallowed hard. You're not fixing us because we're broken. We're just being built. Like a house. Strong foundations take time. And I'm scared, too. Scared of losing Sophie. Scared of losing you. But please, please come back. He hung up. She didn't call back. Day 4. Sophie took a turn. Her fever spiked. The monitors started alarming. Nurses rushed in. Doctors, Marcus didn't know. They stabilized her, but barely. We need Dr. Hartwell, one of them said. She's in a board meeting, someone replied. I don't care. Page her, now. Elena arrived 20 minutes later. Rushed, out of breath. She went straight to Sophie without looking at Marcus. She examined the charts, checked vitals, asked questions in rapid-fire medical terminology Marcus couldn't follow. We're switching protocols entirely, she said finally. This isn't working. We need a different approach. She gave orders. Nurses moved. Within an hour, Sophie was on new medication. Elena stayed until Sophie stabilized. Then she started to leave. Elena, wait. She stopped, didn't turn around. I'm sorry for what I said. I was wrong. You were scared. Her voice was flat. I understand. It's more than that. Your daughter is sick, Marcus. That's what matters, not us. There is an us. She turned then. Her face was exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes. No makeup. Hair pulled back severe. Is there? She asked quietly. Because I'm starting to think Richard was right. I don't know how to do this. How to be a doctor and a person. How to save your daughter and love you at the same time. You don't have to choose. Don't I? Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. My sister died, Marcus. I watched her die because I couldn't save her. And now Sophie is... She couldn't finish. Sophie isn't Emma. I know that. The words came out sharp, angry. Don't you think I know that? But watching her decline, watching the treatment fail, it's like I'm 17 again and completely powerless. You're not powerless, you're brilliant, you're capable, I'm scared. The admission broke something in her. She wrapped her arms around herself. I'm so scared that I'm going to fail again, that I'm going to lose another little girl I care about, and I can't go through that again. Marcus moved toward her. She held up a hand. Don't, please. I need to focus on Sophie's treatment. I can't think about anything else right now. Elena, give me space, Marcus. Please. She left. And Marcus stood alone in the hospital hallway feeling like his world was collapsing. Have you ever said something you regretted the moment it left your mouth? Drop a comment if you've been in Marcus's shoes. And subscribe because these next few parts are going to test everyone. Like if you think Elena and Marcus can find their way back to each other. The board meeting started at 9 a.m. on Friday. Elena sat at the head of the long mahogany table in Hartwell Biotech's executive conference room. 17 board members. Richard directly across from her. His silver hair perfect, his smile predatory. She hadn't slept in 4 days. Coffee and adrenaline kept her upright. The pediatric lupus trial. Richard began pulling up a PowerPoint presentation. Specifically, the Harrington syndrome subset. I've reviewed the latest data. Elena's jaw tightened. She knew where this was going. Charts appeared on the screen. Sophie's case highlighted in red. The drop in kidney function circled, annotated with clinical terminology that made a child's suffering sound like statistics. Subject 7 shows significant adverse response. Richard continued. His voice was smooth, reasonable. Kidney function declined 18% over 2 weeks. This represents not just treatment failure, but potential harm. Murmurs around the table. One setback doesn't constitute failure, Elena said calmly. We've adjusted the protocol. New approach implemented yesterday. At what cost? Richard leaned back in his chair. This trial has consumed disproportionate resources. One subject requiring constant executive oversight. He looked directly at Elena. Your oversight. Time that should be allocated across all company initiatives. Every patient deserves attention. Every patient, yes. But this level of personal involvement raises questions about objectivity. Elena felt the trap closing. What are you proposing? Richard's smile widened. Motion to terminate the pediatric Harrington subset. Reallocate resources to trials with higher success probability and better data integrity. Silence. Elena looked around the table, saw the calculations happening, the board members weighing optics and finances and liability. Second, Richard asked. Elena stood, every eye turned to her. I second the motion. The room erupted. Dr. Hartwell, you can't. This is your program. What are you? Richard's face went from smug to confused. You're seconding your own program's termination. I am. Elena's voice cut through the noise, cold, clear. But not for the reasons you stated. She walked to the window. Seattle spread below, gray and rainy and beautiful. I built this company 23 years ago on the promise that we'd help children other pharmaceutical companies ignored. Children with rare diseases. Children like my sister. She turned to face them. But somewhere along the way I forgot that promise. I let business metrics and profit margins and board politics dictate who deserves treatment. Elena, one of the older board members, started. I'm not finished. She looked at Richard. You're right about one thing. I've been too personally involved. I've let my emotions cloud my judgment. I've prioritized one patient because she reminded me of everything I've lost and everything I'm fighting for. She pulled an envelope from her briefcase, set it on the table. My resignation, effective immediately. Chaos. Richard stood. You can't resign. You're the CEO. You founded this company. Which means I can leave it. Elena looked around the room one last time. I started Hartwell Biotech to save children like Emma, like Sophie Hayes. But I can't do that here anymore. Not when the people in this room are more concerned with quarterly earnings than with a 9-year-old girl's life. She picked up her briefcase. The Harrington trial continues under my supervision, but not here. Not with your funding or your oversight or your approval. She paused at the door. Some things are worth losing everything for. Took me 23 years to remember that. Elena walked out of her own company and didn't look back. In the parking garage, she sat in her Tesla, hands shaking on the steering wheel. 23 years. Gone. Her entire adult life poured into building Hartwell Biotech. The reputation, the influence, the financial security, all of it. Gone. For what? For a little girl she'd known 8 weeks. For a man who'd said she was just playing savior. For a treatment that was currently failing. Her phone buzzed. Messages flooding in. Board members, investors, her executive team, all demanding explanations. She turned the phone off, started the car, drove to the only place that made sense. Marcus's house sat dark at 11 p.m. Rain poured down. Elena stood on the porch soaked. She'd been sitting in her car for 20 minutes, gathering courage. The Tesla's headlights were still on. She hadn't turned them off, hadn't brought an umbrella, was still wearing the suit from the board meeting, mascara running down her face. She raised her hand, knocked, nothing. Knocked again, harder. The porch light flicked on. The door opened. Marcus stood there in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, hair disheveled, eyes red. He looked like he'd been crying. Elena. Her name came out broken. I quit. The words tumbled out. The company. Richard wanted to end Sophie's treatment. So I quit. 23 years, gone. For a little girl I've known 8 weeks, and a man who thinks I'm just fixing broken things, and... She was rambling, couldn't stop. I don't know what I'm doing. I just walked away from everything. My life's work, my legacy, my sister's legacy, and for what? For a treatment that's failing. For a relationship that's falling apart. For... Marcus pulled her inside. You're soaking wet. It's raining. I noticed. He disappeared. Came back with a towel. Started drying her hair. Elena just stood there, let him. You quit, he said, quietly. I quit. Because of Sophie. Because Richard was going to terminate her trial. Because board politics matter more than children's lives. Because I couldn't... Her voice broke. I couldn't let him do that to her. Marcus cupped her face, made her look at him. You gave up everything. Yes. You're insane. Probably. A laugh that was almost a sob. But I meant what I said in the hospital. I'm staying, even if the treatment fails. Even if you don't forgive me. Even if I just lost my company and my reputation and any chance of getting funding for continued research. I'm staying. Elena, I love you. The words spilled out, raw, terrified. I love you and I love Sophie, and I don't know how to do this, but I'm all in. Completely. Terrifyingly. All in. Marcus kissed her. Not gentle. Not careful. Desperate. Like he'd been drowning and she was air. She kissed back, hands fisted in his shirt, rain dripping from her hair onto his floor. When they pulled apart, they were both crying. I love you too, Marcus whispered. I'm sorry for what I said, for pushing you away, for... Stop. Elena pressed her forehead to his. We both said things. We were both scared. Are you still scared? Absolutely. She laughed, wet and messy. I just quit my job. I have no idea what happens next. The new protocol might not work. Richard will probably try to destroy me. And I'm standing in your living room at 11 p.m. having a breakdown. Best breakdown I've ever seen. She hit his chest lightly. This isn't funny. I know. He kissed her forehead. Come on, you need dry clothes. Elena ended up in one of Marcus's old sweatshirts. It hung past her knees, her suit draped over a chair to dry. They sat on his couch, her feet tucked under her, his arm around her shoulders. What are you going to do? He asked. I have no idea. Elena stared at the rain streaking down the window. I have the research, the protocols, but no lab, no funding, no institutional support. Can you get funding? Maybe, eventually. But that takes time, applications, approval processes. Sophie doesn't have that kind of time. They sat in silence. The rain drummed on the roof. What if we built our own? Marcus said suddenly. Elena turned to look at him. What? A lab? A facility? What if we just built it ourselves? Marcus, that's not. You can't just build a medical research facility. Why not? He sat up straighter. You have the knowledge. I'm literally an architect. Between us, we could design something, find a space, equip it. That would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we fundraise, crowdfund, apply for grants. I can take a second mortgage on the house. You can't do that. Why not? Sophie's my daughter. This is her life. Elena shook her head. It's too risky. If the treatment doesn't work, you'll lose everything. And if we don't try, I'll lose her. Marcus took her hands. You gave up your company for Sophie. Let me risk my house. That's different. How? Because... Elena couldn't finish. Because you're used to being the one who sacrifices, the one who fixes everything alone. Marcus squeezed her hands. Let me help. Let me be your partner in all of it. She looked at him, really looked. Saw the determination in his eyes, the love, the fear underneath both. This could fail spectacularly, she said. It could. We could lose everything. Yep, you're absolutely sure, completely. He smiled. Besides, I already designed your house. Might as well design a lab, too. Elena blinked. You what? He grabbed a sketch pad from the coffee table, showed her architectural drawings, a house with too many east-facing windows, a rooftop deck, an open kitchen. I didn't realize I was doing it, he admitted. But yeah, I designed a house for us. Before I even knew I wanted an us, she traced the lines on the paper. It's beautiful. It's ours, if you want it. Elena kissed him. Soft, sweet, full of promise. I want it. Morning came with pale Seattle sunlight. Elena woke to voices. Marcus and Sophie in the kitchen. She padded downstairs in the oversized sweatshirt, stopped in the doorway. Sophie sat at the table coloring. Marcus at the stove attempting pancakes. You're burning them again, Daddy. They're not burned. They're well done. They're black. Elena laughed. Both of them turned. Elena. Sophie jumped up, ran over, hugged her tight. You're here. I'm here, sweetheart. Are you staying for pancakes? Elena looked at Marcus. He nodded. I'm staying, she said. If that's okay with both of you. More than okay, Marcus said. They ate burnt pancakes, drank orange juice, made plans. Sophie spread her coloring pages across the table. Elena opened her laptop. Marcus grabbed his sketch pad. So, Marcus clicked his pen. We need a lab. Not just a lab, Elena corrected. A full treatment facility. Examination rooms, infusion center, small pharmacy, office space. How much square footage? Minimum 5,000. Ideally, closer to 8. Marcus started sketching. Warehouse conversion. Keep costs down. Open floor plan for flexibility. Sophie looked up from her coloring. Can I help? Absolutely, Elena said. What color should the treatment rooms be? Not white. White is boring. Sophie considered. Purple and yellow. Happy colors. Marcus added notes. Elena typed on her laptop. Sophie colored in the margins of their planning documents. For an hour they worked, the three of them, building something together. Initial cost estimate, Marcus said finally. 300,000. That's construction equipment first-year operating costs. Elena winced. That's more than I have liquid. I can get maybe 100 from the house. That still leaves 100,000 short. Sophie raised her hand. What about GoFundMe? Both adults looked at her. What? She shrugged. Kids at school do it for field trips and stuff. Why not for medicine? Elena and Marcus looked at each other. That's actually not a terrible idea, Elena said slowly. Medical crowdfunding, Sophie's story. The treatment that was blocked by corporate politics. Media coverage, Marcus added. Local news loves this kind of thing. Single dad, sick daughter, doctor who quit her company to help them. It could backfire. Or it could work. Elena thought about it, weighed the risks, the exposure, the vulnerability, then looked at Sophie, coloring, smiling, healthy enough to sit at the table and make plans. Let's do it, she said. They launched the campaign that afternoon. Marcus wrote the story. Elena provided medical context. Sophie drew pictures. The goal, $100,000 in 60 days. They hit it in 12 hours. Marcus's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Donations, shares, comments. 50,000, 75,000, 120,000. Elena stared at the screen. This is amazing, Marcus finished. By the end of the week, they had 200,000. Local news picked up the story. Then regional, then national. Former pharmaceutical CEO quits to save one child. The doctor who chose compassion over profit. Building hope, the fight to cure Harrington syndrome. Elena did interviews. Uncomfortable in front of cameras, but she talked about Emma, about Sophie, about why some things matter more than money. Marcus showed blueprints, explained their vision. A place where children could get treatment regardless of their family's ability to pay. Sophie became the face of the campaign, drawing pictures, talking about stars and moonstone and hoping to dance again. The money kept coming. By month 2, they had 400,000, enough to build something real. Marcus found a warehouse in South Seattle, abandoned, ugly, but structurally sound. They bought it in cash. Construction started in month 3. Marcus directed the crew. Elena supervised medical equipment installation. Sophie, stronger now on the adjusted protocol painted with the other children they'd enrolled. Because word had spread. Parents with sick kids. kids who'd been rejected from trials, kids who had nowhere else to go. Elena reviewed each case personally, accepted 12 children total. The warehouse transformed. Dark concrete became warm spaces, skylights installed, natural light flooding in, treatment rooms painted purple and yellow. Sophie's choice. String lights shaped like stars in the infusion area. Elena's idea. A callback to Emma's hospital room, to late-night stargazing with Sophie. Month 5 brought inspections, FDA approval process, endless paperwork. Elena navigated it all. Years of pharmaceutical experience finally useful. Marcus worked overtime, designing, building, making sure every detail was perfect. They barely slept, living on coffee and determination. Sophie's kidney function climbed, slowly. The new protocol working. 32%, 38%, 41%. Not cured, but stable, improving. Month 6 they were ready. The sign went up outside the warehouse Hayes Hartwell Foundation for Rare Diseases. Non-profit, patient-funded, dedicated to children who'd been told no everywhere else. The grand opening was small. No politicians, no press, just the 12 families they were treating. Marcus stood with Elena in the main treatment area, watched Sophie play with the other kids, running, actually running. "We did it," he said quietly. Elena leaned into him. "We did. Your board was wrong." "About what?" "You're not just fixing broken things." Marcus kissed the top of her head. "You're building new ones." Elena looked around the space, at the children laughing, at the parents crying tears of relief, at Sophie healthy and happy and alive, at Marcus beside her, solid, steady. "Yeah," she said softly, "I guess I am." That night, after everyone left, the three of them sat in the empty lobby. Takeout Chinese spread on the floor. No furniture yet. Sophie fell asleep between them, head on Elena's lap, feet in Marcus's. "She's getting heavy," Marcus whispered. "Good, means she's growing." They sat in comfortable silence, the warehouse quiet around them. Through the skylights, stars were visible. Rare for Seattle. "Emma would have liked this place," Elena said. "Yeah. She would have loved the stars, and the kids, and," Elena's voice caught, "she would have loved you and Sophie." Marcus reached across Sophie's sleeping form, took Elena's hand. "I think she'd be proud of you." "I hope so." More silence. Peaceful. "Elena, yeah, move in with us." She looked at him. "What? Move in, to the house with me and Sophie." He smiled. "I already designed you one anyway. Might as well actually live there." "Marcus, I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring things out, but I want you there, every morning, every night, every burnt pancake breakfast and late-night planning session." Elena looked down at Sophie. Sleeping. Peaceful. Her kidney function now at 53%, higher than it had been in 3 years. "What about Sophie? Have you asked her, are you kidding? She's been asking me when you're moving in since week 6. Really? She wants to show you her rock collection, properly, with all the labels she's been making." Elena laughed. Quiet. Careful not to wake Sophie. Okay, I'll move in." She squeezed his hand. "On one condition." "What's that?" "You let me cook breakfast sometimes. Your pancakes are terrible." Marcus grinned. "Deal." Above them, the stars shone through the skylights. Below them, Sophie breathed deep and even. Around them, a foundation they'd built together, brick by brick, choice by choice, sacrifice by sacrifice. And for the first time in 23 years, Elena felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be 6 months after the Hayes Hartwell Foundation opened. Marcus had a plan. He enlisted Sophie as co-conspirator. They spent a week preparing. Secret trips to the jewelry store, whispered conversations when Elena was at the lab, practice runs on the rooftop. "Are you sure she'll say yes?" Sophie asked, worried. "Pretty sure." Marcus knelt to her level. "But even if she's surprised, that's okay. The best things start with surprises." Sophie giggled. "Like your text message, exactly like my text message." The day arrived. Friday evening. Golden hour in Seattle, which meant the rare appearance of actual sun. Marcus had built out the foundation's rooftop during construction. A garden space for patients and families. Sophie had helped plant flowers. Elena had added a telescope. Now, string lights crisscrossed overhead. Takeout Thai sat in warming containers, their regular order. Pad see ew green curry spring rolls. Sophie bounced on her toes. "She's coming up the stairs. Remember the plan. I know. Sophie positioned herself by the blanket they'd spread on the ground. Elena appeared through the rooftop door. She'd changed out of her lab coat, wore jeans and a soft gray sweater, her hair down. She looked tired but happy. "What's all this?" She took in the lights, the food, the elaborate setup. "Sit," Sophie commanded, patting the blanket. Elena laughed. "Bossy today, aren't we? It's important." Sophie's face was serious. Elena sat. Marcus handed her a Thai iced tea. She took a sip, looking between them suspiciously. "You two are up to something." "Maybe." Marcus couldn't stop smiling. They ate, talked about the foundation. Sophie's latest kidney function results, 67%. The other children in the program, the new grant applications Elena was writing. The sun dropped lower. Seattle's skyline turned gold and orange. Sophie kept looking at Marcus. He nodded. She scrambled to her feet. "Elena, stay right there. Don't move." "Sophie Hayes, what?" But Sophie was already pulling something from her backpack. A small velvet box. She handed it to Marcus. Elena's eyes went wide. Her hand flew to her mouth. Marcus knelt in front of her on the blanket. Sophie knelt beside him. 3 years ago, Marcus began, his voice not quite steady, "I sent you the wrong text." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Marcus, let me finish." He smiled. "I sent you a message meant for someone else, about kissing at crosswalks and being rusty at dating, and you showed up at my door in the rain." Sophie nodded along. She'd heard this story 100 times. "You saved Sophie's life, but you also saved mine." Marcus's throat tightened. "You taught me that buildings need strong foundations, that light matters in dark spaces, that time isn't just counting down, sometimes it's building up." He opened the box. The ring caught the golden light. A moonstone center, small diamonds arranged around it like stars. Elena's breath caught. "Marcus, Sophie picked the stone," he said. "She said you'd understand. Emma's stone." Elena's voice broke. "And Sophie's. And ours." Marcus took her hand. "You became part of our foundation, our light, our family, and I can't imagine building anything without you." Sophie grabbed Elena's other hand. "We love you, Elena, Mom. Will you marry us? Will you help us keep building?" Elena was crying now, full tears streaming down her face. "I already told everyone at school, you're gonna be my real mom," Sophie added. "So you kind of have to say yes." Elena laughed through her sobs. "You can't just tell people." "But I did, and they're really excited. Mrs. Patterson wants to know if she's invited to the wedding." "Sophie." But Elena was laughing and crying at the same time. Marcus squeezed her hand. What do you say, Dr. Hartwell? Will you marry a slightly disorganized architect and his very bossy daughter? Elena looked at the ring, at Marcus, at Sophie, at the city spread below them turning gold in the sunset. Yes. The word came out choked. Yes, God, yes, 1,000 times yes. Marcus slid the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. Sophie threw her arms around Elena's neck. Elena held her tight, kissed the top of her head. Then Marcus was there too. The three of them in a tangle of arms and tears and laughter. As the sun touched the horizon, the city lights began turning on across Seattle. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds, thousands. Light pushing back darkness. Everywhere. Elena pulled back enough to look at them both. Her family, hard-won and unexpected and absolutely perfect. I love you, she whispered. Both of you. So much. We love you too, Sophie said. Marcus kissed her, soft, sweet, full of promise and future and everything they'd built together. When they pulled apart, the city was fully lit, stars beginning to appear above. Look! Sophie pointed at the sky. Orion! They lay back on the blanket, the three of them, watching constellations emerge. I saved the text, you know, Elena said quietly. On my phone, in a special folder. Marcus turned his head to look at her. Really? I look at it when I need courage. She smiled. Reminds me that sometimes the best things come from our mistakes. Best mistake I ever made. Not a mistake. Elena laced her fingers through his. Perfect timing. The wedding was small, intimate. 6 weeks later, they held it in the Foundation's rooftop garden, same place Marcus proposed. Late November. Miraculously clear skies. 40 guests, family, close friends, the 12 families from the treatment program. Sophie was flower girl. She'd insisted on a purple dress to match the treatment rooms, carried a basket of dahlias, orange like the ones from Pike Place Market that first date. Marcus's parents sat in the front row, his mother crying before the ceremony even started, his father's arm around her shoulders. Elena's small circle of friends occupied the other front row. Diane, her former assistant who'd quit Hartwell Biotech the same day Elena had. Now the Foundation's operations director. Marcus stood under an arch of string lights. Same ones from the proposal. His best man, his brother David, beside him. Both in simple dark suits. Music started. A string quartet, playing Somewhere Only We Know. Sophie came down the aisle first, scattering petals, grinning at everyone. Then Elena. She wore a simple blue dress, not white, blue like the Seattle sky when the clouds finally parted. Her hair loose. Flowers tucked behind one ear. She carried a single dahlia. Orange. No one gave her away. She walked alone. Strong. Sure. When she reached Marcus, he took her hands. Couldn't stop smiling. The officiant, a judge who'd helped with the Foundation's nonprofit status, began. But Marcus barely heard the words. He was lost in Elena's eyes. In the moment. In the absolute certainty that this was right. The vows were short. Marcus went first. I promise to be your foundation. To hold steady when things shake. To build with you every single day. His voice cracked. I promise to bring light to your darkest moments, and to let you bring light to mine. Elena's turn. I promise to be brave enough to stay, even when it's scary, even when it's hard. Tears on her cheeks, happy ones. I promise to love you both with everything I have, to build a life, a home, a family, together. Rings exchanged. The moonstone ring Marcus had given her. A simple gold band for him. I now pronounce you husband and wife. They kissed. Everyone cheered. Sophie jumped between them. Group hug. They laughed. Pulled her in, the three of them together. As they walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, the sun broke through the clouds. Actual Seattle sunshine, rare, precious. "That's good luck," Sophie whispered. "Mama's watching." Elena squeezed her hand. Marcus squeezed the other. The reception was simple. Dinner in the Foundation's lobby. Music, dancing. Marcus and Elena's first dance was interrupted halfway through by Sophie demanding to join. They lifted her between them, spun in circles. The photographer caught it. Three faces laughing, completely joyful. Later, cutting cake, Sophie got frosting on Elena's nose. Elena retaliated. Soon, Marcus was involved. They were covered in buttercream, laughing so hard they could barely breathe. "This is the best wedding ever," Sophie declared. Elena looked at Marcus, at their friends and family, at the Foundation around them. "Yeah," she agreed. "It really is." 2 years later. The house Marcus designed finally got built. Not Elena's original modern glass box in Queen Anne. Something new, something theirs. Craftsman style, warm wood, big windows facing east for morning light. Rooftop deck for stargazing. Kitchen open and enormous. Built for family dinners and burnt pancakes and life. A Friday morning in September. Chaos. Marcus stood at the stove attempting to flip pancakes while holding 6-month-old Daniel on his hip. The baby grabbed at the spatula. "No, buddy. Hot. We don't touch." At the table, Elena fed Emma. Also 6 months old. The twin girls looked nothing alike. Emma had Elena's blonde hair and blue eyes. Daniel had Marcus's dark hair and hazel eyes. Sophie, now 11 and impossibly grown up, sat doing homework. Her kidney function had stabilized at 82%. Healthy, normal. She'd joined a soccer team, played midfielder, was surprisingly good. "Dad, you're burning them again," Sophie said without looking up. "They're not burned. They're black. Caramelized." Elena laughed. Emma grabbed at her coffee mug. The kitchen was a disaster. Baby toys, Sophie's soccer gear, medical journals, architectural plans, coffee cups, breakfast dishes, perfect chaos, perfect mess. The refrigerator was covered in artwork. Sophie's drawings of constellations, Emma and Daniel's handprints, photos, medical reports with healthy numbers highlighted, a magnet that said, "Built on Love." Through the window, September sunshine. The garden Sophie had helped plant. Dahlias blooming orange. "Daddy, I need my permission slip signed." Sophie held up a form. "Field trip to the planetarium next week." Planetarium. Elena's eyes lit up. "Can parents volunteer?" "Elena, you have that grant meeting." Marcus flipped a pancake, mostly successfully. "I'll reschedule." "You can't keep rescheduling meetings for field trips." "Watch me." Sophie grinned. "You can both come. Mrs. Patterson said we need extra chaperones." Daniel started fussing. Marcus jostled him gently. "Someone's hungry." "Trade you." Elena stood, took Daniel, handed Emma to Marcus. They moved around each other with practiced ease, a dance they'd perfected over 2 years. Marcus settled Emma in his lap. She grabbed his shirt. He managed to plate pancakes one-handed. The Foundation had grown. 53 children in active treatment now. 3 full-time doctors. Elena as medical director. Research papers published. Other facilities starting to adopt their model. Richard had tried to sue. Claimed Elena stole proprietary research. The case was dismissed. Hartwell Biotech's reputation suffered more than Elena's. She testified before Congress last month. On healthcare access, rare disease funding, patient rights over corporate profits. You looked good on C-SPAN, Marcus had teased. I looked terrified. Terrified and good. Now, in their chaotic kitchen, Elena bounced Daniel while reading a journal article on her tablet. One-handed, multitasking perfected. The new protocol results came back, she said. 92% efficacy across the expanded trial group. Marcus looked up. Elena, that's incredible. It's a start. But she was smiling. We're presenting at the American College of Rheumatology in November. You, me, and Sophie. Patient perspective panel. Sophie's head shot up. I get to talk at a medical conference. If you want to. Can I tell them about the purple walls? Absolutely. Emma reached for the pancakes. Marcus gave her a small piece. She gummed it happily. Your parents called, Elena said. They want to take Sophie to the Mariners game tomorrow. Just Sophie. Marcus raised an eyebrow. They specifically said just Sophie. Something about grandparent time before the twins steal all the attention. Sophie pumped her fist. Yes. Can I get a foam finger? We'll see. The morning dissolved into typical Friday chaos. Getting Sophie ready for school, packing her lunch, finding her soccer cleats. Marcus and Elena tag-teamed the twins. Diaper changes. Outfit changes when Daniel spit up. More outfit changes when Emma decided to redecorate with mashed banana. At 8:15, Sophie's bus arrived. They walked her to the door. Well, Marcus and Elena walked. The twins were in carriers. Love you, Soph? Marcus kissed her head. Love you, Dad. She hugged him, then Elena. Love you, Elena, Mom. Love you too, sweetheart. Kill it at practice today. I will. Sophie ran to the bus, turned back, waved. They waved back. The 3 adults now. 4 babies if you counted the twins. The bus pulled away. Marcus and Elena stood in the doorway. Twins on their hips. Watching. Remember when she could barely walk to the mailbox? Marcus said quietly. I remember. Elena's voice was soft. They went back inside. The house was still a mess. Pancakes getting cold on the table, coffee needed reheating, but through the window sunlight streamed in, warm, golden, filling every corner. Elena set Daniel in his bouncer. Marcus put Emma in hers. The babies cooed at each other. Coffee, Elena asked. Please. She poured 2 cups. They sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by the beautiful chaos of their life. I have to go to the foundation at 10, Elena said. Staff meeting. I have a client call at 11. New hospital wing design. We're very busy, important people. Extremely busy. Marcus took her hand. Remember when we had time to just sit, vaguely. They sat anyway. Stole 10 minutes, just existing together. The clock on the wall ticked forward. 8:47 a.m. Life moving forward. Time not running out. Just accumulating. Building. That evening, after Sophie's practice after dinner after bath time and story time and finally getting all 3 kids to sleep, Marcus and Elena collapsed on the couch. I'm exhausted, Elena said. Same. Why did we think having twins was a good idea? Because we're idiots. She laughed, leaned against him. Happy idiots, though. The happiest. They sat in comfortable silence, the house quiet around them, night pressing against the windows. Marcus thought about the past 3 years. The accidental text. Elena showing up in the rain. Sophie's illness. The foundation. The wedding. The twins. All of it. Every moment. Good and terrible and beautiful. Elena, I wouldn't change anything. She turned to look at him. Not even the part where I quit my company and we nearly went bankrupt building a medical facility with no guaranteed funding. Especially not that part. You're insane. Learned from the best. He kissed her forehead. Come on, we should sleep while we can. They climbed the stairs, checked on all 3 kids. Sophie sprawled across her bed moonstone on her nightstand. The twins in cribs sleeping on their backs, tiny chests rising and falling. In their own room, Elena changed into one of Marcus's old t-shirts. He brushed his teeth. They fell into bed. Exhausted. Happy. I love you, Elena whispered in the dark. Love you too. Outside, Seattle slept, the city lights glowing, pushing back darkness. Inside, a family breathed together, built on a foundation of mistakes and choices and love. Morning would come. There would be crying babies and burnt pancakes and soccer practice and grant deadlines. But for now, there was this. Peace, home, light. 3 years after a text sent to the wrong person changed everything. The clock on Marcus's nightstand read 4:47 p.m. Wait, no, 4:47 a.m. early morning. Before dawn. Daniel was crying. Marcus groaned. Elena was already getting up. I've got him, she said. You took Emma at 2. Are you sure? I'm sure. She kissed him, quick, sleepy, perfect. Go back to sleep. She patted down the hall. Marcus heard her soft voice soothing Daniel. The crying stopped. He closed his eyes, smiled in the dark. 4:47. Same time as the original text. 3 years ago. The message that destroyed his life and rebuilt it better. The best mistake he ever made. No, not a mistake, perfect timing. Marcus fell back asleep and dreamed of foundations and light and everything they'd built together. Everything they would keep building. One day, one moment, one choice at a time. Home. The end. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment about your own wrong text moment that turned out right. Subscribe for more stories about unexpected love and second chances. And hit that like button if you believe the best things in life start with mistakes that lead us exactly where we need to be.